recording. All right, we can start recording on the mixer in 5, 4, 3.
Y'all, listen. If there is one thing I've learned, adversity does not build character. Adversity reveals character. I'm Barbie Bassett, and I invite you to join me and my friends, Therese, Apel, and Traci Lee, as we peel back those adversity layers to see what else is revealed. Y'all, listen here. Welcome back. Welcome back. Today is Valentine's Day, and I have some of my most favorite Valentines here with me today. I've got Therese Apel with Dark Horse Press, wearing her lovely red with hearts, we might add.
That's right. Hi, everybody.
Yes, and then we've got Traci Lee from US 96.3, your
Yes.
U.S. country. So good to see you, Traci.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I'm thinking that you're wearing the pink and the kind of sort of red. It's a mixture of both.
Yeah, I picked it.
Yeah.
Trying to be on what I'm supposed to be for Valentine's Day.
I like it.
Today is also National Organ Donor Day, so you can celebrate the one who ripped out your still beating heart. If you're not into Valentine's Day,
Gracious. I did not know that. Thank you
Yes, you're
for that. Well, we are talking about love today.
Yes.
We'll get to that here in just a second. And then we've got Daniel Anderson with Audio Alchemy Productions. Y'all give it up for Daniel.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Daniel.
Daniel
Yay.
is looking quite
Fancy.
suave
Yeah.
today. You're
All
not wearing the
dressed up.
red, but you are wearing a friend of red, which is purple, lavender. Yes?
I am, yes.
Yeah. So if you are one of those interested in having your own podcast, give Daniel a call. He is the one who will make that happen for you. Well, today is Valentine's Day, and you're probably wondering, Barbie, why are you so sparkly?
She's always sparkly.
Why are you so sparkly?
Thanks. I love sparkles, number one. But today is Valentine's Day, just in case you're watching this on the replay. And for 17 years, editorial cartoonist Marshall Ramsey and I partner up to do a blood drive on Valentine's Day and Halloween. And today just so happens to be our Valentine's Day blood drive. So I'm wearing our T-shirt for that. And
cute.
it's kind of chilly outside. So I had to put on a little cover on it. That's the reason for the spark. I kind of look like I'm going to Vegas, though, don't I?
No, I love it. I think it's so cute. And it is always I love that Marshall does the caricatures and things. I love that. You've made it, I feel like, in this market.
Right.
When Marshall has done a caricature of you.
Well, I don't know if y'all can see this. I'm kind of having to lift it up a little bit.
Yeah, there you go.
My biggest complaint about the way Marshall draws me is he always makes me rather buxom. And look at the mouth.
Yeah.
Look at how big the teeth are. Look
Well,
at
you
the
have a beautiful
eyes.
smile.
Look at the eyes. The hair is on point today, though. I
It
will
is.
say.
Yep.
It's the
I
right
am
hair.
matching the hair. I've asked him to make me just a tad bit thinner, maybe give me a waist or something. And what is up with the skirt?
Yeah,
It's almost down to my ankle.
It's
He's
very
got you-
Barbara Bush.
Yeah, I was gonna say
It's very
it's like a 1989 business suit.
Exactly.
Okay, so if you are listening to this on the podcast, you have totally missed everything that I've just shown you. But
Anyway,
Marshall's always such a good sport, and I really,
know.
he's a great example of somebody who we are two totally different people. We have different passions, but we can come together when it comes to blood donation.
Yeah.
right.
So again, that just kind of all leads us back to love. Love is in the air, and so is the drama, girls.
Yeah.
Hasn't it been all day? Like just different stuff all day.
Well, I think most people, when they think about Valentine's, they are thinking about that lover.
Mm-hmm.
The boyfriend, the girlfriend, the significant other, the one that you hope that loves you back, or the one that you want to give your heart to. But I thought we would be a little bit different today and not think of love in that respect, but thinking about those who do make it difficult for us to love and what the Bible says about love, which isn't always the easiest thing to deal with.
Right.
Thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know. When you talked Valentine's Day, my first thought went to the Reese's. You know, how you
Yes.
can do like Reese's does the trees, they do the pumpkins, they do, you know, all the things. The Valentine's, they tried to do a heart.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, it looks like something on the male anatomy.
If you
I
turn it
don't,
upside
I don't
down, I see.
know
Yeah.
if I would buy those for my children, but if they're half off tomorrow, I will buy them for myself.
Oh, my word.
So anyway, back to the
Hey
beloved
now.
stuff. Yes. No, I'm glad we're talking about this because I think when you lead, you know, you think about the most popular chapter in the Bible. It's in Corinthians, you know, the love chapter. And was it 1 Corinthians 13?
1
Is that
Corinthians
right?
13,
Yep.
yes.
And it's like, it starts off with love is patient. And I'm like, "Meh, I'm out. You
Not
know?
today.
I know. But one thing that I'm learning is we are flawed creatures. And I think, I know for myself personally, growing up in the denomination that I did, there were a lot of things that it put the onus on us to do it, to be good, to make sure that we're all these things. And we're created flawed and we fall short. And then it starts this cycle of, okay, I wasn't patient with that. I'm not kind with this. You know, I don't know love. I'm not worthy of love. It just starts this spiral of what you can and what you can't do. And when the reality is that we were never meant to, we're not put together to do that, but Christ is. And our responsibility is to let him do that through us. It's kind of when it talks, John 15, where the vine
Yes.
thing. Okay,
I'm the
like
vine, you're the
he
branches.
is the vine and we are the branches. As long as we abide in him, then his goodness can come through us to produce fruit, to produce leaves. But I read in my devotional this morning that the sap of a healthy tree will also make the dead things fall off.
Ooh.
So the
yes.
leaves, the things that need to fall, the sap, as long as the sap is healthy, it makes that tree regenerate.
Mm-hmm.
And that is almost like a picture of what the blood of Christ does for us. As long as that is healthy, and it is, and we allow that to flow through us, then the dead things will fall off of us. The unforgiveness, the addictions, the things that we don't have the power to fight on our own because we were not created to be able to do it on our own. We were created to need a savior. And that kind of how that intertwines with the love of Christ and him setting us up for success by us setting it down.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that is so good, Tracy. So good in that you said, and I don't think it's necessarily the denomination that you grew up in. I think it's really all of Christianity.
Yeah, you're probably right.
That we are to love each other and turn the other cheek and be kind to those who are not very kind to us. And that is so hard to do. But when you have the love of Christ, it should be easier to do. And at that point, it becomes a choice. There
Yeah.
are some people, y'all, you just have to choose to love.
Well, and I think what you just said is important. Love is a choice. You know, it's not people like I've said this so many times in the last few months for a specific reason that I won't go into. But the worst thing you can say to somebody is, I love you, but I'm not in love with you.
Mm-hmm.
So you see these marriages that break up because we're not in love anymore. Well, I was telling my therapist about a friend of mine who had that happen. And he said, well, you know what I would tell them if they were here? And I said, what? And he said, good, now's when your marriage starts. And he said, you know, the thing is, love is a choice and marriage is a commitment. So, you know, when you get to that point where the thrill is gone, the hormones have worn off, as they will, which is natural, which is why you make vows so that you stick. And so I was thinking about that in terms of everything else that we do. It's about your job. It's about your car. It's, you know, when you think about things are great when they're new and then they fade out, you know, you just get used to going out and driving the same car every day, right? Well, God never does that to us. You know, like every day he's got new blessings for us. Every day he loves us in a new way. And so I think when I think of 1 Corinthians 13, which I memorized in college, and I just feel like it sets the bar so high, but it's not too much to ask, because when you think love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it's not proud. We live in a society that glorifies the opposite of all that.
Yes.
You know, you have people that like to, you know, be the meanest person on the block, that like to be the, you know, like I want it now because I'm important. You've got, you know, all the different things. We're so fast to be absolutely the opposite of everything in 1 Corinthians 13, but God laid that out because that's who he is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, God is patient. God is kind. I mean, you can go through that and you can put God in there. Can you go through and put your name in it, which is my favorite exercise? And that's where you
absolutely
find
not.
where you're missing stuff, you
No.
know?
Yeah.
No. But I do want to say to you right now, I want you to look at Auntie Tracy when I tell you this, okay? That if you have gone through a divorce, if you are going through a divorce, if you are separated, do not feel like this is an attack on you.
Yes.
That is not how God operates.
No.
Okay. So whatever you're feeling, whatever that is on you, that's like, I couldn't keep it together. I couldn't do this. You need to stop that. And you
Amen.
need to go straight to the cross and you need to be honest with God about everything. Okay. This is not to condemn you.
No.
This is to encourage you. And I don't want you to fall under that feeling of condemnation because you're not patient and you're not kind and your marriage failed because you love them, but you weren't in love with them.
Yeah, and forgive me if I came off that way. I certainly didn't.
No,
mean to.
I didn't think you did. I
Okay.
just wanted to, I just know how the enemy works. And if you're weak somewhere, he's going to keep poking that. And I just need you to hear from us. That's not our heart and it's not the heart of God.
Amen.
So I just wanted to say it.
Yeah, and it's so important for us to also realize that with love, whether it is a relational love or whether it's a friendship love, with love is going to come drama
Yeah. And conflict.
and conflict. It's just going to happen. And I have found over the years with myself that when the drama comes between maybe me and a friend or me and a relative or something like that, it is so easy for me to point the finger at them and say, well, you shouldn't have said that, or she said this, or he did this, and that made me mad. While I'm making it about them and how they hurt my feelings or what they said, really what I'm doing, pointing to them, it's like, 4 more fingers pointing back at me. And I'm having to learn how to reflect on myself, saying, why did that bother me? I mean, yeah, they could have said it a little bit differently, or yes, they didn't have to do this that hurt my feelings. But what is it about me that has made me upset at what they did? And something that I am learning right now, and I actually wrote it down, and that is when I look at like Psalm 62, it is impossible to be offended or disappointed when your expectation is only of God.
Mm-hmm.
And so many times we put our expectations on other people because they're a relative, because they're our BFF, because we went to college together or we've been together and we've been through so much. We put so many of our expectations on them and we become hurt. But really our expectation should be on God and God alone. And
So
when
how do you do that?
Oh, I'm telling you, it's a die to self every day. And something that I'll talk about a little bit on our Patreon. We started a Patreon channel after our last podcast last time. And Patreon is really just a show after the podcast. It's a show after the show, if you will. I'm going to share a specific instance that I had this week of where I had to die to myself and say, Lord, I am so mad at this situation. But he really convicted me to look at that person through his eyes of love instead of offense of my eyes, because I was deeply offended and deeply hurt.
Well, and I think too, so I pulled it up because while I did memorize it in college, sometimes I want to make sure I know what order things are in instead of just quoting out of the air. When we say like, how do we do some of these things? This is a blueprint. I mean, it does say it keeps no record of wrongs. You know what that means? Forgive every time, 70 times 7 into eternity. It delights in the truth. It always protects. And you know what that means? Like, it always protects. And I think we have to pray about that because we were talking about a situation earlier where it's like sometimes you love somebody and you have to let them fail, but that doesn't mean you're not there for them. And so this is where a thing that happened to me this week that's so cool. I was digging around in an old box and I found a journal. And it was not one that I knew was mine, but I recognized it as my mother's. But I have not seen it. She died 6 years ago. I didn't know that I had it in my house. And I opened it up and it had directions basically for intercession. So it has like when somebody's hurting, when they're under attack, when, whatever. And she had all these verses and all that. And as I read 1 Corinthians 13, it always protects. There are times you got to pull back and you got to, give it to God. But that's where the protection comes in the form of intercession. And love is so profound in that, because that self-sacrifice of actually getting in the trenches, when you pray hard for somebody, when you intercede for someone, it's hard, and most days I am too tired to get in the trenches and really fight a battle of prayer for somebody because I got my own stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you think about those kind of things. If we want to know how to love correctly, yeah, you can read this and say, yeah, that's a blueprint. I mean, I've said that 3 times already, but there are also sometimes directions that God gives us that, like, if there is not a way for me to protect, if I can't stand in the middle and be like, hey, don't mess with them, I'll beat you up. That's what we do spiritually.
Yeah.
And there's an answer for each of these in the spirit in every case.
That's a whole nother podcast topic in itself, is talking about intercession. And I want us to do that one at
I
some
do too.
point.
Yeah, me too.
The 5 different types of prayers, and we could really make a podcast topic about each one of the 5. But even intercession is a choice,
Yeah.
and that choice really kind of goes back to love. You've got to love somebody, or at least care for them, in order to intercede for them. And it all goes back to, it may be hard to do, but I know that God sees that. He sees us love the difficult people, and he takes note of that.
Can you imagine how much the world would change if we started interceding for our enemies?
Oh, my word.
Like that person that you hate, that ex you can't stand, that person at work that just gets on your nerves. What if, instead of dwelling on it or putting them away altogether, we dedicated time, maybe just once a week, maybe just once a month, but dedicated time that you get on your knees and you say, God, you know how I feel about this person, but I come to you in deep prayer and intercession for them. What would that kind of love do to change the world?
I got to be honest. When you were talking about Corinthians, the verse, the chapter about love, the first thing in my mind is that we can't do that. It's impossible for us to do that. To hold no record of wrongs. And how many times has somebody told you, you can forgive, but don't forget what they did to you, because it's a self-protection in some cases.
I think that's the devil's lie.
It could be. It could be. Or it could be that we are reading a definition and attributes of who God is in Corinthians and who we aren't. We are not. I'm not capable of doing all those things. I mean, I'm not. But God is. And if he can do it through me, then there's a success level there, instead of putting that on my shoulders. I am not a nice person. Like, I say this all the time. I'm not a nice person. Like, I'll cut you. And I don't.
She will.
But I have to choose. My choice is to be subservient to the Holy Spirit. That is my choice, because that is success. If my choice is to be nice to you, I'm going to fail at some point, because that is relying on myself. But if my choice is to be subservient to the Holy Spirit, to Jesus, then they will never fail in that.
But you recognize that love that you have for Christ is what empowers that in you. Any success you have in the places where, I mean, I think it's just what we are as fallen people. Any success you have in that comes through your willingness to give him that.
No, it's because I don't love him well. Like, I don't think that you're hearing what I'm saying. I don't know how to love people. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's because of years and years and years of every time I attempted what we think of as love and what we celebrate on Valentine's Day, I was smashed in my heart, because just like you, when you love hard, you break hard.
Yeah.
And I think it just got to a point where I'm like, I'm not going to try to put this dust back together, And it's the same way. I don't know how to love God. I don't know. And in that admission is where he begins. In that admission, he's like, you don't have to, because I loved you first.
Yes.
I chose you when you were still a sinner. I picked you. I've got you. You don't have to. And do you know what a weight that is off of your shoulders to know, okay, I don't have to have all this figured out because
Yeah.
you're going to cover it.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to cover it for me. Because one of my favorite poems, and this says a lot about who I am. It's sticks and stones are hard on bones, aimed with angry art. Words can sting like anything, but silence breaks the heart. And, you know, I know that we hurt each other with our words, but I think not saying anything sometimes, I hate the silent treatment. I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. Let's just deal with it. But God is so sufficient to cover our insufficiencies. And I think we do him a disservice by thinking we can.
Mm-hmm.
Quite honestly, when you feel like you've got, I know this is for me, and this is a new revelation for me, and I'm still walking it out, but I can't do it. And admitting that I can't do it, that is my submission.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it. I don't know where to go from here because I can't do what you're asking me to do. And the whole point of grace is, but I can.
Mm-hmm.
Let me take you there.
Yeah.
But you got to get to that point where you're like, I can't do this.
Think about it like this. So when you were a kid and you were learning how to swim and like your dad's standing out there in the pool or your mom or whoever and like, jump in and swim to me. And you're like, but I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And you jumped in and you tried and you sunk and they saved you and put you back. Okay, jump in and swim to me. I feel like that is us reaching out to God every day. He's saying, jump in and swim to me.
Mhm.
And we're like, okay, I'm going to try again. You know, and he's there to get us when we mess up. But it's very much like, no, we may not ever have the actual capability to love like he loves or like he deserves, but we can jump in
Yeah.
and hope, you know.
Yeah. Well,
And-
just like Peter,
yeah.
he just told him to get out of the boat. I don't think did he tell him to come to him?
Well, now you're going to make me look it up.
I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Y'all
Yeah.
talk, I'll look it up.
Yeah. Hold, please. Yeah.
But
Think about it.
but y'all both bring up such good points, and that there are some times that it is hard to love.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are some times where it's so easy. I mean, when somebody loves you back, like,
Mhm.
you know, a grandparent or an aunt or
Yes.
an uncle, it is so easy to love them back. But some people make it a lot more difficult to love them back. And again, it goes back to, okay, God, because you say that you love me, help me to love that person
Mm-hmm.
in the way that I can. Maybe not in the way that you can, but in the way that you want me to love them today. And some days may be more difficult to love
Yeah.
than the other. Okay, what'd you find?
So in Matthew 14, Lord, if it's you, Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. Come, he said. So
Uh-huh.
I think that's cool because Peter asks almost it's like he wants to,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but he knows he can't do it without God's permission.
Mm-hmm.
So God, tell me to come to you,
Yes.
you know, and to me, there's so many ways to deconstruct that. That's just cool because like we want so much, even in our darkness, we want so much to be close to God and we don't know how to get there.
But
You
we
know.
don't have to.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of grace.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the chapter, 1 Corinthians 13. I'm looking at verse 4, which is love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it's not proud. It does not dishonor others.
I failed so miserably on all of those.
It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs.
That's where offense comes in.
Mm-hmm.
That's where, as much as we've talked about offense and as much as we've talked about being offended is like drinking poison,
Yeah.
it is also the opposite of love.
And y'all, I've had these moments where I have been hurt and I've had to ask the Holy Spirit to help me get over the hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And while the Bible talks about that he throws our offenses, our sins, as far as the east is from the west, it doesn't say that we do that because we can't.
Right.
But he has helped the hurt not hurt as deep as it used to. Does that make? And some people say, oh, well, time heals all wounds. No. But he has helped me to forget specific things over the years, where after it had quickly happened, I could tell you exactly what he said, what she said, what was done, what they looked like when they did it, that type of thing. But over the years, he has smoothed those rough edges out because I asked for that. Okay, verse 6, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. And here's what you were saying, Therese. It always protects, it always trusts, it always hopes, and always perseveres. So even those people who make it difficult for us to love, love doesn't quit. It's that daily choice again. And just this morning when I was driving in here, I was like, Lord, I know that this is Valentine's Day. Help me to love the people that you want me to love today. No matter what is said, no matter what is done, no matter what is inferred, help me to love those people.
Well, and I think so. I want to say that I get so excited about this topic. I mean, it just to me, this is one of my favorite chapters in the Bible, and I get all like, "Oh, look, that's what we're supposed to be doing," and I realize that I don't want it to come off ever like I'm doing it right. Like I know a lot about this topic, but I'm not good at it. But that's what I think is so cool is when you think about dealing with anyone. God says, "Love your neighbors yourself." Who's your neighbor?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. They're all your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's been some discussion in politics right now about who's your neighbor. Is it the people right next to you versus the people in Uganda? Whatever. I think it's all of us because that love should be applied across the board. But where that comes in on a daily basis is, anytime you have the choice to figure out how to treat this person, it's hard to choose because we go with our instinct. Our human nature leads us down this trail. Like, can you believe she said that? Like, what a we come up with, and we have those, and we have had those conversations today, some of us being me. But that said, this is where, to me, it's, you look at that and you see what heaven's going to be like. But also, one thing that's important to me, and I'll be vulnerable here, I am a forgiver. And I am somebody that okay, you have to hurt me for about 14 years before I'm going to be like, okay, I'm done,
Yeah.
And I have always taken that as a great weakness. I've always just thought, I wish I wasn't like that. But the thing is, I believe that's rewarded. So when we talk about love, it feels like such a selfless, like we have to do these things we're uncomfortable with. We have to go to this place with these people that are, unsavory or that don't, we don't want to be there with them. But in the end, that is greatly rewarded on the other side too. And I don't just mean on the other side of life. I mean, like you go through that with somebody, God is bolstering you in other places because you had to give that part of yourself, because that's the ultimate sacrifice. It's symbolic of what he did for us.
That's the gift of mercy. And you have the gift of mercy. And he sees that. And because of that, he gives you favor in that area as well. That is so good.
You put it way more succinctly than I did.
Well, I was understanding what you were saying. I'm like, she just, and you are like that.
It's, and you know what? A lot of days I really super extra wish I wasn't, when I'm looking at somebody doing the same crap they did to me for the last 10 years. And I'm like, okay, God, like, I'm going to forgive him again. I know I am. Why did you make me why? I'm going to be fine. I'm really mad right now, but I'll be fine tomorrow. Why? And then, there comes the day that I cut him off. But in the end, also, I don't usually go to sleep feeling bad that I hurt somebody. And that said, I'm still upset about hurting a girl in 6th grade. Like, I still remember sweet Anna, and I put a thumbtack in her chair to make the popular girls think I was cool. And if I knew how to find her today, I would call her and apologize. And that's 6th grade.
Maybe Anna is watching this podcast.
I hope
Boy,
so.
do we have a surprise for you. Anna, come on in.
That would have been hilarious. That would be fun.
That would be funny.
Daniel, that's your topic. That's your assignment for next time. Traci, any last thoughts?
I'm not gonna lie. The whole topic kind of makes me uncomfortable because I feel like I'm so bad at it. I'm so bad at it. And again, it's just that cycle of feeling like a failure because you can't hit all the notes, and that, this is what you're supposed to do. Why aren't you doing it? And the whole forgiveness thing. I don't know. I think I was in a domestic violence situation when I was younger. And for me, it was, I can forgive you for what you did, but I don't know if it's good for me to forget it because I don't want to end up there again. Mm-hmm. Even if it's not with him, I need to remember what happened and what cues were laid down, so I can pick up on those again with other people, because I don't find good people. You know, it's like I gravitate. I used to, back in the days before GPS, I would always get lost. I didn't know my way. I mean, still today, I would always get lost. And what I found is I would always get lost in the same areas and always end up making the same mistakes because I recognized landmarks.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, this looks familiar, but it was familiar wrong.
Yeah.
And I would always have to pull over and call my dad at a payphone, and he's like, get off of Lynch Street. I mean, you know, it's just that kind of thing. But I don't know. I feel really, it's, if I'm being honest, it makes me uncomfortable to talk about this because I don't feel like I have anything to say because I haven't figured it out for myself yet.
Well, I think that we're all kind of still in that same boat. When we figure it out, that's when we've become perfect and we're no longer used by the kingdom. So it's important for us to say that even though we've learned through some issues, none of us have gotten it right. But you brought the GPS. The thing that I loved about the GPS is that it would say redirecting. Redirecting. And that's how the Lord works with us. I did a Bible study this past week and was speaking to a group of ladies that I do once a month. And do y'all remember when your parents would drop you off somewhere? Maybe you were visiting with a friend or something, and they'd say, I'll swing by and pick you back up. That's what the Lord does to us. If we miss our moment, if we mismanage our season, if we don't get something right, he always swings around and he picks us back up. And that's what the redirecting does. So even when we're not getting the whole love thing right.
And it may be just our definition of what love is on this side of heaven. That, you know, trying to fit all of that into that, it doesn't make sense. Now, grace, we can talk about grace. I understand grace because I live grace every day. I don't have a problem with that. But love, I'm like,
But you know what? You don't even know how you love. Like you have done so much for me that falls in the category of love.
That's true.
You know, you have been so constant for me, and you've done so much, and you've saved my life more times than you know. And now we're both going to cry. But the thing is, you may think you're not good at love, but you instinctively are good at it. You know, I can't think of a good example, but, you know, you think you can't do it, but you're doing it every day. You just doubt yourself. So the thing is, when you were talking about that, Barbie, and I'm kind of changing lanes here, but it all goes together, I think. There was a poem that I wrote down when I was in high school, and I've saved it in my Bible. And, of course, now everything that was on paper is in your phone.
Yes.
So I actually have my handwriting in here from high school, but I've always loved it because to me it defines, I don't want to be perfect. I want to be like Christ. And I know that means I'm going to fall down and I'm going to get muddy and it's going to be a long, long walk. But it's called The Poor Disciple. I have no idea who wrote it. But it's, say that I followed far behind, but say that I loved him dearly. Say that my eyes were dull and blind, but say that I saw him clearly. Say that I slipped my hand from his, but say that his hand was steady. Say that my heart was slow to yield, but his heart was always ready. Say that my soul was unforgivable, but say that his love forgave. Say that my life was weak and worn, but say that he stooped to save. Say that my fear denied my Lord in agony dearly priced, but say that his mercy covers my sin. Oh, say that I loved my Christ. And I think that's the thing in the places that we go to where we say, I don't know how to love. I don't know how to do this right. What if I mess it up? That fear is the blocker, but he breaks through all that. And that's what he did at Calvary, and that's what he does every day.
Absolutely.
I don't have a problem with him. He's safe.
Yeah.
You know, he's a safe place, and he's gonna love you no matter what. He knows everything, and he is my best friend. Like and I know I'm a very private person, and I know that shocks some people, but I keep a lot of stuff close to the chest. I don't tell people, but he's my best friend. I tell him everything. There's nothing he doesn't know, and some of those conversations are embarrassing and hard, but there's nothing he doesn't know.
Wow, what a good topic today. I feel like we've kind of unpacked a lot, and we've not put it back in the box yet.
I feel like we could do this for weeks. Like we could stay on this topic for a long time.
We really, really could. And by the way, we're seeing all of your comments. If you're watching us live here, we can see your comments. And Terry says that this has been just for her. and how powerful this conversation is. And I completely agree. It's been powerful for me to be with y'all and listen to y'all with it. Happy Valentine's Day, girls.
Happy
Thanks for the
Valentine's Day.
goodies.
Yes.
Like, I don't know if you can see this. Did you say that you and Gracie made these?
No, me and Lily Faith.
oh, you and
did.
Lily
Okay.
Faith did.
Yes. So they're Oreo balls.
and we did not eat them before we
Speak
started
for
because we
yourself.
had them
I
in
got
our
my
teeth.
box open.
That's right. Yeah, I just didn't want them in my teeth.
I don't care. Happy Valentine's Day.
Well, we are going to continue this conversation over on our Patreon channel. And we'll be sure that we put this the Patreon link in the post here, so that way you can go and check it out. Again, our Patreon channel is kind of like an after the podcast conversation. And until then, we can't wait to see you again for another time and another podcast on Y'all Listen Here. Tracy, are they good?
They're so good.
I can't wait.